Pastor Brian here with Empowered Christian Ministries and the Empowered 365 Network, making Christians into disciples and empowering disciples with training, resources, community, everything you need to work together, fulfill your calling, make disciples, and advance God's kingdom globally. What do you think discipleship is all about? Does your church have a short discipleship program? Have you gone through some kind of discipleship course? Did you bring somebody alongside you and disciple them through a certain program? Now, I've studied many of these programs, including by people who are considered the discipleship experts, but I think they all fall short in this one area for sure. And then if they don't get this one thing right, then they're not going to be able to create the rest of the system that's going to really lead to permanent disciples of Jesus. So this has been addressed in our course called My 99, a universal discipleship model that we created. I pray you are encouraged and edified by this sample clip from our My 99 course. Enjoy. Lesson 1, discipleship is a process, right? Discipleship is a process, not a program. I think discipleship is lacking often in the church for two main reasons. The first is this: we treat discipleship like a program instead of a process, a thing to go through, to be a part of, rather than something that is supposed to be a process that changes you on the journey. And that's really what it's supposed to be, right? Many churches have something like a 4-week discipleship program, and often that's likely a sort of knowledge-based, teacher-led classroom. Right? Now, that's not necessarily bad, but it could be better, because you don't learn how to become an obedient, committed, spirit-led, transformed follower of Jesus and begin to start living it out in 4 weeks. It takes time. It takes growth. It takes things being removed from your old way of life, your old belief system, your old the traumas you went through, the old addictions and vices and all these different things. And so you're unlearning stuff you learned previously and you're learning new things, and all that takes time. And it's not only about what you learn, it's about what you apply to your life. Because you can learn it. I could teach it all to you in one day. I could give you 10 hours worth of stuff. But if you don't embrace it and let it change the way that you think and apply it to your life in a way that allows you to begin to start living differently, then you're not going to become a disciple of Jesus. You're just going to know a bunch of stuff, right? It's like you went to a classroom in school, in high school or something, and they just taught you all this information, and 99% of it you do not need and will not remember once you graduate, right? It's not for your new career path. It's not information that you really need to know, a lot of it, and you won't really remember most of it. And we don't want to do that when we think about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. It's not about just learning a bunch of stuff and checking a box and saying, I learned it. Somebody told it to me at one point and then I forgot it. It's about changing what you believe and then applying it to your life and then following through and living a life consistent with what you've learned and how you've applied it. And so we become like Jesus over time. It's a slow process. It requires refinement, dedication, spiritual maturity, right? It requires growth. It requires practice. It requires a lot of different things that take time. So discipleship needs to be a process. We need to understand it is a process if it's going to last. And then we need to treat it like a process that is not something we just complete because we finished a class. We need to know that you never really finish becoming more like Jesus, because he is all that we could ever hope to become. We never arrive becoming fully like him, so you're never done with your discipleship, right? To be a disciple of Jesus means to become like him. That's what it means. It doesn't just mean to go through a class or just learn certain things. It means to become like the one that we're following, the one that we're
So it's to become like him in our nature. It's to live like he lived. It's to think like he thought. It's to be like he is, right? And so, you could have an entire 8 years PhD worth of discipleship classes and still not be a good disciple, right? You could have all the right answers to the questions and still not be obedient to Jesus. You could know all the doctrines and have a degree and be able to have all the knowledge of what it means in the Bible and what the Bible teaches and all this stuff. You could have knowledge of Greek and Hebrew and all the rest. You could be a church, leader, senior pastor, and have people under you and influence thousands or millions, and you could still be a bad disciple of Jesus. What matters is, are you becoming like him? Do you know the truth? Do you worship God in spirit and in truth? Are you following him? Are you walking alongside him? When Jesus says at the end of the age, does he look at you and say, I never knew you, right? And they'll say, but Lord, this is in Matthew 7, but Lord, we were in your streets and we were doing miracles and we did all these things in your name. And Jesus said, I never knew you. He goes, you didn't do the will of my Father, and I didn't know you. I didn't have a personal relationship with you. And you've still been a worker of iniquity. You've still been sinful. We didn't walk together. Jesus, when he was calling people to follow him, to be his disciple, he was inviting them to have a relationship with him, to walk alongside him as he taught them, as he helped change them and transform them. So it was a process. It wasn't just a class. So you need to make sure that anything that you're doing that's discipleship embraces the truth of this principle, that it's a process. So it's not something you do and complete. It's something that you enter into, and it begins to take shape, and you can evaluate yourself because of that. You can see, how am I doing in this process, right? If I'm to be like Jesus, then I have to know who Jesus is. I have to know how he's like and what he would do with his life and what he thinks is important and what he believes about reality. And I need to come into agreement with that and pursue that in a way that makes me more like him. So that's a process. You can evaluate yourself with how far you're along in that journey, as well as anybody else that you're discipling. You can say, how are they like Jesus? In what ways are they not like Jesus? In what ways are they excelling like Jesus? And you can evaluate them as a result of that. So discipleship is a process that is an important and essential principle for better discipleship.
Discipleship is something every single follower of Jesus should be doing. We all have to be working on getting to the next stage in our development. It's not just for new believers, it's for everybody. If you want to learn more, just go over here and you can see the full course. If you want to just watch some more free videos, check out this one. YouTube recommends it from our channel.